Hi everyone, welcome to this lesson. In this lesson I'll show you how to create digital clock in Python programming language using a library called Tkinter with the time module from Python libraries. Let's get started. At the beginning, if you are using another operating system or any IDE or any text editor, you may need to install the Tkinter library first. But I recommend using the Jupyter Notebook exactly as you can see here to follow this course without any problems, without any errors. First of all, you need to import two modules or two libraries from Python libraries to work with digital clock, to create digital clock. First of all, you can see we imported the time module, but we imported only a function from that time module, the function we need. This function is strftime. You don't need to import the whole module, just import that function from that module. And this function or this method called strftime is used to return a string representing date and time, the current date and the current time also. Also after that you need to import the Tkinter library, but only two functions from that library. We need to import two functions, label and tk, from that library called Tkinter. The Tkinter library is a Python library to create graphical user interface applications simply. What is the label function from that library? The label function simply is used to specify the container box where we can place the text we want or images inside the window we are gonna create. Also, why do we use the tk function? What is that function? We need to import the tk function here to create the main window for our digital clock using the Tkinter library. That function is used to create the main window. Now, let's create our window and we are gonna configure that window also with functions, and we are gonna discuss these functions. By using these methods, we created our empty window here for the digital clock. You can see the check function to create an empty window first, and we stored that function inside a variable called window. Try to put any descriptive name. You can rename that window with any name you wish instead of window. tk, we call that function with an empty parenthesis, and we assign it to the variable called window. After that, we used the title function to insert a title for that window. You can insert any title. I'll leave out that title. I'll leave out that title here. This is an empty title. You can name it any name. Try to put digital clock as a title or anything you wish. For that window, we used the name of the variable followed by the dot notation followed by the function called title, and this function is used to insert a title for that empty window. After that, you can see the geometry function, and this function is used to specify the dimension of that empty window, of the displayed window that we are gonna create. And you can see the geometry or the dimension for that window is 200 times 80 in between double quotes inside the parentheses of that function. This dimension as an argument for the geometry function, and we placed that function, we placed the calling of that function after the dot notation after the variable name called window refers to the tk function for an empty window for the digital clock. After that, we configured the background color. The background color for that digital clock or that window is black using the configure function. Call it also using the variable name window followed by the dot notation followed by the calling of that function called configure, and that function is used to configure the background color, in that case in between the parentheses of that function. The background is black. You can place red, and I'll show you that later, and you can place any color you wish. And there are many colors provided by the Tkinter library, and you can see all of them in the Tkinter official website. After that, you will see we used the resizable function to make our window not resizable. You cannot resize that window for the 2 dimensions, false and false. To make the window of our digital clock not resizable, that's it simply. The name of the variable also window refers to our window for the digital clock, followed by the dot notation, followed by the calling of that function called resizable. And the 2 arguments, false, then false. We separate between them using comma, as you can see. After that, let's use the label function. Let's use the Tkinter label widget using the label function from the Tkinter library to implement display boxes inside our window, where you can place text or images as we said beforehand. You can see we used the label method and we assigned it to a variable, and this variable is called clock label. You can name it any name you wish. You can name that variable any meaningful name you wish. And look inside the parentheses or the braces of the label function. You will see the first argument is our window, is our empty window that we want to insert widgets inside it or text or images inside that window. The background is equal to black. This is the second argument inside the label function. The third one is foreground. FG is equal to white. The foreground color is equal to white. As you can see, you can use any valid color inside the Tkinter or any valid color from the Tkinter library. The next argument is font, as you can see, and the value of font or the details for that font is the font family is equal to times, the font size is equal to 30, and the font type is equal to bold. You can change these values as you wish. And you can see the last argument inside the parentheses of the label function. The last one is called relief. What is the relief argument? This relief argument or this option is used to specify appearance of a decorative border around the label we created. The default value for this option is flat, but try to put it relief is equal to flat. After that, you can see a function called place. The name of the variable refers to the label function. This variable for the label function, we assign the label function to it, followed by the dot notation, followed by the calling of the place function or the place method from the Tkinter library. We call that function to set the position of our window. This function allows you to set the position and size of a window. We call the place function, and inside the parentheses of that place function you can see the arguments. We have 2 arguments here for x and y. The position for x is equal to 20, and the value of y also is equal to 20. This is to set the position of our window. We used that label function from the Tkinter library here to place our time information and details here. Now we need a function. We need to design a function to update the value on that label we created every 80 milliseconds. Let me show you that. By using the def keyword, we design that function. We declare that function called updating label to update that label or to update our clock. Current time is equal to strftime function. That function we talked about previously. We imported it first from the time module to display or to represent the current date and time using hours, minutes, then seconds, using that format in between the parentheses of the calling of that function. You can see modulo h for hours, modulo m for minutes, modulo s for seconds. That's it. We assign that value, or we assign the calling of that function to a variable called current time to display the current time. After that, you can see we used clock label. The clock label refers to the label function to configure the text to display the current time. To display the current time in the text format, we configured previously using the label function. That's it. By using this statement, clockLabel.configure text is equal to current time, we are gonna display the current time in our window, in our empty window for our clock. Also using our widget we created using the label function or the label method from the Tkinter library. That's it. And after that, clock label this variable dot after to update the value on the label every 80 milliseconds using 2 arguments for that function, for after function. The 2 arguments for the after function are 80, this is the first one, 80 milliseconds, and the second one is the name of our function updating label. And the goal of using the after function here or the after method is to update the value of the current time on the label after every 80 milliseconds. That's it simply. To execute this program, you need to call 2 functions. The first one is called updating label. You have to call this function to make it works. And the second one is from the Tkinter library, and that function is called main loop. We are gonna be using the main loop function at the end of our program to prevent the displayed window from exiting immediately. This is the using of that function. Let me show you that. Let's call the 2 functions. You can see here at the end of our program we called the updating label function to display our current time, and also we called the main loop function for our window to prevent that window we created here from exiting immediately. That's it simply. Now we need to run that program using Shift Enter or Shift Return, or you can use the run button. You can use the run button to show the output, to show our digital clock, to display the current time simply. After running our program and waiting a little bit of time, you will see our clock, our digital clock here to display the current date and time simply. That's it, easily. You can do this by yourself, and also you can change the values here from that program. You can change the color, you can change the size, the font, and so on. Now it's time to summarize all what we did in this lesson. We imported 2 libraries first, 2 modules. The time module, we imported only a function from inside it, the strftime. This function is used to represent the current date and time. Also, we used the Tkinter library, we imported it, and we imported only 2 functions from it, the label function and the checky function. We used the checky function to create our empty window simply. We assign that function to a variable, and you can name that variable any name you wish. And after that you can insert a title. We inserted an empty title using the title function for our window. After that, the geometry for our dimension, for the dimension of the window we created. You can see the background is red using the configure function. Also after that, our window is not resizable, so we used false and false as an arguments for that function called resizable. After that, our widget using the label function. We created our widget using that label function for our window. You can see the background color is equal to red. You can put black, you can put any color, any valid color from the Tkinter library instead of using red. And the foreground color is equal to white. The font family is Times, and the font size is equal to 30. You can change the font size if you wish, and the font type is bold, as you can see. Relief is equal to flat, and the default value for relief is flat. And we created a function after that to update the current time using the strftime function, and to update the time after 80 milliseconds for our current time, and the configure function to insert the current time using the widget for clock label refers to the label method. That's it simply. The after function, you can see, has two parameters or arguments, 80 milliseconds, and the second one updating label, our function name. We used 80 milliseconds in that case as a parameter or as an argument for the after function because according to research, human brain can only process 12 separate images per second. Anything more than that, it will be perceived as a single picture. And simply, this is what causes the illusion of motion. That's it simply. 80 milliseconds, then the name of the function. The second argument is the name of our function for our digital clock here. And after that, you can see we call the two function. We call the two function updating label function. You must invoke that function, or you must call that function to make it works. And the last one is the main loop function. Also, you must use that function. This is so important. The main loop function or the main loop method is used when your application is ready to run. That's it simply. Or you can say that the main loop function is an infinite loop. And simply that function is used in this case to prevent the displayed window or the digital clock window from exciting immediately. This is the using of the main loop function in this example here. And after that, we executed that program by hitting Shift Enter or Shift Return to show the output. And the output is our digital clock simply to display the current date and time. That's all for this lesson about creating digital clock to display the current date and time in Python programming language. Thanks a lot for watching. See you again next lesson.